Do you ever notice how a brand you absolutely loved, one that was just everywhere, kind of fades away? They didn't really do anything wrong. In fact, they probably got more professional, more polished. So why'd they disappear from your radar? Well, that's what we're going to dig into, the mystery of why brands that seem to have it all figured out suddenly start to die. It's a pretty wild thought, isn't it? But this quote, it really nails the problem. The second a brand stops being a little messy, a little human, and turns into this perfectly optimized machine, something important gets lost. You could say the soul just vanishes. They start playing for an algorithm instead of connecting with actual people, and that, my friends, is the beginning of the end. Now, to get why this is happening, you gotta look at the world we're in right now. This number, somewhere between 6 and 10,000, that's how many ads the average person sees every single day. We are in a full-blown attention crisis. Your attention is the most valuable and the scarcest resource on the planet. And in a world this noisy, just being polished isn't gonna get you heard. Okay, let's make this personal for a sec. Think of a brand you used to be obsessed with, one that you felt just got you. Got one? Now, where are they in your life today? That special connection, that feeling, it's probably faded, right? That's the feeling we're gonna diagnose. And that right there is the key symptom. See, the brand didn't get worse. They just got careful. They stopped taking risks, they stopped being raw, they started creating content to maintain what they have instead of expressing who they are. Sure, they're still showing up in your feed, but that human connection that made you care in the first place, it's gone. They're just part of the noise now. So, to really get a handle on this sickness, we've got to diagnose it. There are basically 3 core diseases that cause this decay. These are the underlying conditions that turn a vibrant, beloved brand into a ghost. First up, we've got something called marketing myopia. This is when a company just falls completely in love with its own product and forgets to ask if anyone else actually still wants it. A perfect example is the old Ambassador car in India. For decades, it was the king of the road, but the company never really changed the car to keep up with what people wanted. Better style, comfort, new tech. They were so focused on making their car, they completely forgot to make a car for their customers. Next up is familiarity decay. Our brains, believe it or not, are wired for novelty. When you see something new and exciting, you get a little hit of dopamine. It feels good. But when a brand just keeps repeating the same ad or the same joke that worked one time, that reward system in your brain just shuts down. They think they're building loyalty, but what they're really building is boredom. Think about it. The first time you saw a really clever ad, you loved it. The 10th time, you just scroll right past without even thinking. And finally, all of this is happening inside the brutal world of the attention economy. The average human attention span is now just 8 seconds. That's less than a goldfish. And with all this content coming at us, we've developed defenses. We get ad fatigue, we get banner blindness, where our brains literally learn to ignore anything that looks like an ad. In this kind of world, traditional generic marketing isn't just ineffective, it's literally invisible. But it's not all doom and gloom, I promise. If the sickness is losing that human connection, well, the cure is to get it back, big time. We need an antidote, and that antidote is a radical commitment to being real in a world that feels increasingly fake. In a world of slick ads and perfect influencers, authenticity has become the most valuable currency a brand can have. People they're tired of being pitched to. They crave realness. They want to do business with actual people they feel like they know, like, and trust. And here's the kicker. They are absolutely willing to pay more for it because you can't put a price on trust.
Think about the difference here. On one side, you've got a paid spokesperson, some famous celebrity telling you to buy a car. They got a huge check for it. It just feels like an interruption. But on the other side, you have the actual owner, the founder, telling you why they poured their heart and soul into starting their company. You can feel that passion, and that authenticity, it just carries so much more weight.
And that's because your story is uniquely yours. The late nights, the sacrifices, the prayers, that moment you almost gave up but you pushed through anyway, that's the real stuff. That's what connects with people on an emotional level. It's not about being a perfect model on camera. It's about being a relatable human. This is where the magic is. Your story isn't just a highlight reel, it's the unpolished journey. When you share the challenges, the lessons you learned the hard way, the growth, and most importantly, the why behind it all, you're doing more than just selling a product. You're building trust. You're creating an emotional anchor, and you might even inspire someone else to start their own journey too.
So this all leads to a really big shift in how you should even think about your goal. It's not just about telling your story, it's about changing your target completely. You've got to move from chasing relevance to chasing resonance.
See, the brands that are dying are usually chasing relevance. They're trying to hack the algorithm, jump on every single trend, and design everything for clicks. But the brands that last, they're chasing resonance. They're trying to create a feeling. They're connecting on a human level. They're designing for memory. They're not trying to be a fleeting trend. They're trying to become a meaningful part of someone's life.
Ultimately, it just boils down to this old saying, facts tell, but stories sell. A list of your product's features is just a bunch of facts that nobody's going to remember. But a story about how that product solved a real person's problem or how the founder poured their life into creating it, that's a story. And that is what sells, because it makes people feel something.
Okay, so how do we actually put all this into practice? Let's get to the prescription, the clear, actionable steps for building a brand that can actually last.
It really all comes down to three main pillars. First, you have to define your why, the real reason you exist, beyond just making money. Then, once you know that, you tell your story, weaving that purpose into everything you do. And finally, you use that story to build a community. You shift from just broadcasting at people to actually starting a real conversation with them.
That all sounds great in theory, right? But what can you actually do? How does this high-level strategy translate into tactics you can use for your business, like tomorrow? All right, let's talk practical tactics. Start A/B testing your offers. Don't guess what people want, let them show you. Ditch the cheesy stock photos and use real, high-quality images that show your product in the real world. Remember that 8-second attention span? You gotta grab them fast with a hook that solves a problem. Build trust with a clean, professional design. It shows you care. And most important of all, turn your marketing into a two-way street. Ask questions, run polls, and make your audience feel like they're part of the conversation.
So, as we wrap this up, let's circle back to the core idea. For years, brands have been in this crazy arms race trying to game the system and outsmart these constantly changing algorithms. But you know what? That's a losing battle.
The real secret, the ultimate competitive advantage in our crazy, noisy world is to outfeel the algorithm. It's to create something so human, so real, so emotionally resonant that people remember it and share it and connect with it long after all the clicks have been counted. And that leaves us with one final powerful question. Before you post that next thing, before you launch that next campaign, ask yourself this: would I still say this if no one was watching? Is this real? Is this true to who I am? Because if the answer is yes, you're not just creating content anymore. You're building a brand that just might last.